Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. I would say summer 2020, but we're fading out of summer very fast. But students, virtual Melt University, I've got an amazing treat for you today, amazing interview. Not only one of my best friends, we could probably sit here and bore you with stories of many, many great stories of our times together and working together. But David McKillips is the CEO of Chuck E. Cheese Entertainment and the Peter Piper Pizza brand. Say that 3 times fast. Many of us have celebrated a birthday or two with our loved ones and Chuck E. Cheese, and he's navigating obviously a crazy COVID environment. We'll talk about that a lot as well. Graduate of the University of Georgia, an ill-fated attempt at a baseball career at the University of Georgia started. He's going to start his career path at SeaWorld, talk about that experience, how he paid his dues, how he paid his price, then became VP of Advertising at DC Comics, which is where we first met when I picked up the phone out of the blue one day in 2003. And I said, I got this crazy idea to make LeBron James a superhero, King James, but I'm having problems convincing my client at Coca-Cola. And he said, I'll be on the plane in the morning, and led to a tremendous friendship and relationship. We talk about the value of maintaining and mining and nurturing your relationships over time. David and I are a poster child, case study for that. I remember his days. We would sit in his office at Six Flags over Times Square, which at the time was owned by Danny Snyder. As you know, owns the Washington Redskins, and he survived that. Ultimately, became head of president of all international development at Six Flags, where he was building a giant amusement and theme park strategy all over the world. And then now is the CEO of one of the most famous food, dining, family dining, kid-friendly restaurant for millions of families over the world. So let's welcome one of my dearest friends and favorite people in the world, David McKillips, to virtual Melt University. Thank you, David.
Well, Vince, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to hear your voice and hope you're doing well and safe. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy. You know, obviously we've all, we've all pivoting in a COVID environment, and particularly our students who have been in a great state of flux. Not only in the summer, their internships kind of went away. We pivoted to virtual. It may be a new virtual world where you got to be interning in a virtual environment or interviewing in a virtual environment as well. So we've been here to try to help our students. And I think that, they're going to learn about the various careers and the various things that you've done to become successful, one of the most successful people that I know. But talk about sort of from your view, because you're having to travel, you're having to visit restaurants and things, where you see consumer habits sort of moving in a COVID environment, but praying that we get beyond a post-COVID environment, and how this is going to impact our students and their approach to their educations and their jobs.
The first thing I'd like to say is you gave me such a warm welcome, and I appreciate it. And you introduced the brands that I'm representing now, which is Chuck E. Cheese and Peter Piper Pizza. We also have a new brand called Pasquale's Pizza and Wings, and that is a delivery-only business, and it segues perfectly to exactly the question you're asking in terms of what is happening today that are changing consumer insights, behavior. And I'll tell you, I learned a long time ago that change brings opportunity, and it is the one constant in all of our businesses, and frankly in all of our life. So Pasquale's Pizza and Wings is a new brand for the company, but ultimately we're a high touch, experiential family dining destination. If you think about it, I mean, either you've had a birthday party or you had an experience here at Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, that Pasquale pizza and wings, that sounds, really, really good right now. And we'll talk about how you guys are pivoting in that world, basically, takeout and delivery only product as well.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that brand, but it does talk about the change. It talks about consumer insights and behavior. Certainly, more people are at home. They're not coming out into the restaurants or other experiential areas. That will come with time. But right now, for the next 6, 12 months, until we see some of the new normal come back, we had to prepare our company. We had to pivot to an off-premise business model, and that's not our core competency. So, we had to rally our entire team, all of our restaurants, to say, instead of welcoming our guests into our venues, we're going to shift and we're going to try to bring birthday parties home. We're going to try to bring content directly to our kids via YouTube channel and great new content. We cut a deal with music providers. So we've got Chuck E. Cheese branded music now coming into the homes of young preschool kids and their moms. We developed the Fun Break, which is, if you think about it, now moms have got their kids at home and they're trying to develop a schedule. You're gonna learn in the morning, you're gonna play in the afternoon, but every afternoon we've got Chuck E. Cheese coming out with a fun break with new content across your social channels. So that's been new for us. But any business right now, any college student right now has got to adapt with what we are facing right in front of us. So you got to pivot with what life throws us a little bit, but I will tell you, those that are successful today will take all the learnings that they have had during the pandemic. And then when the new normal comes back, you'll combine all those successes with hopefully people coming back into the restaurants, people coming back into stadiums, and you're going to be that much more successful. So, those that can realize change and pivot will be those that come out on top.
Right. And one of our great sayings that we have in our program is change is inevitable, growth is optional, choose wisely. And many times, particularly these kids that our students at this age, this is the first turbulence that they've encountered. And but to your point, step back and examine and see where these areas. I mean, students may not have ever thought about a career in the fast casual, or we call it fast casual, quick service dining experience. But there's going to be so many areas, to your point, content creation, technology, in-home experiences, because going back to school might not be the same as well. So let's take it back a day or two to your time at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs, because I've known you nearly 2 decades now, and I know that you approach everything with amazing amount of passion and amazing amount of zeal. So talk about how that sort of shaped and formed your experience in college, and then how you have taken that and used that as a common thread throughout your career.
Yeah, I'll go back even further. You and I got our start, and we've got this great common thread with Georgia being in our backyard and being in our blood now. Mm-hmm. And but before that, I actually started my college career at Central Missouri State University, and I came out of high school, and boy, that's all I wanted to do was work in sports and be a ball player. And I went to Central Missouri State University, and boy, I'll tell you that first week I was there, I was cut by the baseball team. And
right. So you experienced getting thrown off the saddle the first week.
I got to tell you, Vince, I have had all my success through failure, wow. And it is certainly the recipe for success, and it's not being able to fail. And those first times, and I'm sure everybody that's listening into this can think about the times, boy, you wanted something so bad and it just didn't work out, and you feel like you failed. But at the end of the day, you keep your head up and keep going. In fact, I went back to St. Louis and I joined the United States Navy, and I went out to San Diego and I don't talk about this much, Vince, so I think you're probably the first person to hear this, but I went to San Diego for basic training, and I was sent home in 8 weeks with a bum knee. And
wow, did I even know that?
You did not. In fact, I was thinking about it today, because there's so many young people right now that are facing such challenges, and I just want to say, just keep going ahead, just keep plowing through. But at that moment, I I had not made the baseball team. That's all I wanted to do was play baseball. And I went to Central Missouri. It didn't work out. Then I went and joined our United States Navy. I was sent home in 8 weeks. What a disappointment.
So you're out of the box. You're 0 for 2.
0 for 2.
Which was similar to my professional career. I was 0 for 2 out of the box. So you're not even 20 years old, and you're like, oh, what the hell am I going to do now?
So you know what? I still wanted to see the ocean. So I moved down to Florida, and I got a job cleaning up trash at SeaWorld in Orlando. And I absolutely fell in love with the theme park business. And I had not been to many theme parks.
But how did you get to SeaWorld? What happened?
I had a bunch of buddies, one of them whose parent actually worked for Anheuser-Busch, which at the time was the ownership group for SeaWorld, what they call the Busch Entertainment Corporation.
So Busch Gardens.
And yeah, absolutely. So I go down with a bunch of buddies. 4 of us moved down to Central Florida. We get jobs at SeaWorld, and boy, I'm telling you, we're down there having all kinds of fun and doing what young people do. And I was like, this is incredible. And I made up my mind at that very moment that I wanted to be in family entertainment.
Wow.
And it was a great opportunity for 4 buddies to go down. We were having a great time. We were hitting the happy hours. We were doing what you're supposed to be doing as a young person. But you know what? I took it seriously, and I worked hard. I'm like, this could be an actual career. What people do for fun could be my career. And how I ended up at University of Georgia is they were actually having an open baseball camp down in Orlando, and I went out there to see if I could try to walk on the team. My father was living in Atlanta, so boy, what a great opportunity for me to combine a couple loves and see if I could make University of Georgia my home. The baseball career didn't work out, but I tell you what, I still always remembered that moment I had at SeaWorld. So I used to take my classes at the University of Georgia in Athens and drive down to Orlando on the weekends.
What?
And work at SeaWorld. You bet. About 6.5 hours, got a ticket or 2, but ended up getting a full-time job at SeaWorld. And coming out of University of Georgia, I learned a lot. I got to play club hockey at Georgia. I was on
What's it called, the Ice Dogs?
Yep, the Ice Dogs, which, by the way, an incredibly successful program now.
Oh, amazing. I mean, I love their logo.
Yeah, and so they're doing great. But you know what? I took these failures of, not making it through the military, not making it through the college career I had. I ended up going to a junior college and, just to make my credits in St. Louis. And then, boy, oh boy, I ended up at a D1 school with an amazing program. And it got a great degree, and then got a full-time job at SeaWorld coming right out of there. So I just absolutely loved it. And there I am, Vince. I'm in Florida. I've got a full-time job. I got a couple dollars in my pocket now coming out of school. And the opportunity came up for a promotions manager. And I was a promotions representative at SeaWorld, and there was an opportunity for me to be a manager in the system. And I wanted to be a corporate employee so bad.
Right.
And I went to my boss and I said, you know what? I'd love to be a manager, but the job was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at a little theme park called Sesame Place, which was a theme park for preschool children. Okay. And boy, oh boy, I was like, what am I thinking? I'm happy. I got friends in Florida. This is great. But you know what? I took the chance. I went from the number 1 park with the biggest budgets, the most amount of people, the greatest marketing opportunity, and I went to the smallest park.
Wow.
I got to do everything. And I learned all aspects of marketing and operating the park and promotions, all to take a step because I wanted to be this corporate employee for Anheuser-Busch. And I thought, boy, I could get from family entertainment back into doing some sports. And I got really, really excited. So I thought this was the great stepping stone for me. Mm-hmm. And then, Vince, the job opened up in St. Louis, a corporate job for Busch. And I interviewed for it. And guess what? I didn't get it.
You're 0 for 3 at this point.
So I'm 0 for 3. I'm sitting in Philadelphia alone.
All right. So you're in Philadelphia alone,
working at a theme park for preschool kids. I don't know anything about children, and boy, oh boy, an opportunity came there for me because I was living in the Northeast. I got to go to a networking function called Promo Expo in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
lo and behold, there was a gentleman by the name of Joel Ehrlich there who gave one of the most magnificent speeches about Batman and Batman is actually Batman and Robin the movie and some of the promotion they were doing. And he was so dynamic. I came up to him. I said, "My name's David McKillips, and I'd love to work for you." And he said, "Call me on Monday." I sure did. And I called, and he goes, "I don't have a promotion job open, but I do have a sales job." And I'm like, "Well, Joel, I'm really not a salesperson." And I always thought, "Oh, sales,
Right.
used car salesman and this and that."
Yeah.
I'm like, I never saw myself in
Vacuum
that.
cleaners, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "It's one of the greatest traits you can learn in your career and in life." And I left Philadelphia and I moved to New York City and I worked for DC Comics, and I never read a comic book in my life. I didn't know anything about Superman or Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, but I'll tell you what, it was an incredible opportunity for me to learn licensing, media, the film industry. And then, as you mentioned, I get a call one day.
All right. Well, now, so I'm going to stop you right there. I want to because you've talked about a lot of things that we unpack with our students, and man, this is like a poster. I know we're on limited time, but you're the poster child for some of the things that we've talked about. You pushed yourself out of your comfort zone to go to Philadelphia. We had an amazing podcast with Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, who went from Syracuse or Utica, New York, to rural Louisiana to take the job of head golf coach because it was his first job out of college, to get himself in that lane to become commissioner of the SEC. So, number one, push out of the comfort zone. Secondly, you talk about Joel Ehrlich. Similar to me walking up to the sports information director when I was a student at Auburn and say, "Hey, I want to be over there and volunteer." You approached Joel Ehrlich, one of our favorite people, and you took that shot. You took that shot. What was the worst he could have said was no. And then you wind up at DC Comics, and he asked you to go out of your comfort zone again, which is to start a sales career or a sales capacity. So, talk about comfort zone and taking that shot just a little bit.
One of the things that I think your listeners and your students really ought to think about, and what I've learned on my journey here, is there is no straight path to success. And I
amen.
About, boy, I wanted to be this corporate, executive at Anheuser-Busch. Growing up in St. Louis, that's just what you want to do.
Busch or the St. Louis Cardinals or something like that.
Yeah, of course. So
Busch Stadium.
Yeah, Busch Stadium, Busch Entertainment, Anheuser-Busch. It's just like there's so many great opportunities with that company, and that's just kind of what surrounds you. And that's what I wanted. But all of a sudden, I found myself on this whole different path. And I'd really think about, your goals. Don't get too hung up on what you thought your original goal may be. And that took a long time for me to get over because I had these long-term goals.
Bingo.
And your path changes. And when that path changes, it's a new opportunity that presents itself. Go down that path, see what's there, and learn everything you can. Because, what did I know about comic books? Nothing. But I learned the whole art, the narrative of storytelling. I learned, media rights. I learned licensing rights. I learned the value of intellectual properties. I never would have done that if I just laid down one and followed one path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you had this love of hospitality, family entertainment. You were paying your dues. You took another big shot. You learned the comic book and the licensing business, and then lo and behold, through that, and I remember the day you called me for the first time and said you got this opportunity over Six Flags, and I'm like, man, well, I grew up in Laurel, Alabama. Six Flags over Georgia was like one of the destinations. So you decide to, and by the way, you were a big dog at DC Comics, which is, vaunted brand and the most vaunted characters of all time. And you decide not only to dive back into this industry, you dive back into the industry with a guy who had, Danny Snyder and Mark Shapiro, who had no experience running theme parks. So you ran into a couple of buzzsaws, as I recall.
Yeah, I sure did. It was a great opportunity for me because I brought the knowledge of what I call the tights and capes, right? The knowledge of the DC Comics superheroes, which are a master licensee for
Mhm.
Six Flags, and of course, I had theme park background as well. But I joined up with Mark Shapiro, who was the CEO, coming over from ESPN. I think it was probably 12, 13 executives followed him from ESPN, and they took a sports mentality into Six Flags. So it was great for me to learn from another side, all the sports side, the content
Right.
side from ESPN, with these gentlemen and ladies that took over the company. So I was able to provide some expertise in their area, and I learned everything that they'd done during that time period. They had also purchased. The company also purchased Dick Clark Productions.
Oh, I
So
forgot
again,
about that. Right.
you
Right.
talk about another path. All of a sudden, I'm in Los Angeles working on the Academy of Country Music Awards, or in Las Vegas working on the Academy of Country Music Awards, or the AMAs in LA,
Hmm. Hmm.
the Golden Globes. So you think you can dance, like these incredible, iconic content shows. I was working on it, and who knew? Just because I took a chance, it led me to another pathway. And I spent 13 years at Six Flags. I ran almost every division from, partnerships to creating the Six Flags media networks. And then I took a leap of faith, and I moved into operations, overseeing food and beverage, merchandise, and then lastly, and what I thought was quite frankly one of the most incredible experiences of my life is I was overseeing the international development division, as well as the engineering, maintenance, and design division of the company. And that, I spent the
Wow.
last couple of years, Vince, in Beijing and in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, learning new cultures, beliefs. And it was absolutely fascinating. The world is just an incredible place. And if you think about it, if I didn't take that job at SeaWorld or that job at Sesame Place, I never would have been sitting in Beijing, and I'll never forget that.
Hmm. Well, one common thread that we've heard from so many, of our guests, such as yourself and others, is that the word relentless. Be relentless. And I've known you, like I said, almost 2 decades. And I think one thing that you and I share, and the approach that you take to any task that you do, is that you always relentlessly pursue the perfection of that task and that craft. And we're telling our kids now, and David, one thing that we're going to talk about, one thing I want you to talk about is it applies to relentlessness and instant gratification, and don't take things personal, is that students coming out of college now are going to face probably the hardest and toughest entry level job market and environment ever, because so many unemployed restaurant workers and hospitality and tourism and live event and marketing services and sports marketing, that people who are unemployed are going to be willing to step back and take a lower job at a lower price, which is going to squeeze and depress the entry level job market. But so you're gonna have to be extra relentless. You're not going to be David McKillips, the CEO, overnight. They want my job. They want your job. And they're going to get told no many, many times. You and I, obviously, our lives are, what business are we? We're in the rejection business. But I want you to share your philosophy I just threw a lot at you, but the relentlessness of our pursuit. There is not going to be any unicorns or instant gratification out there, and they're going to hear the word no over and over. We said those are just the first two letters of the words not yet, not no. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think success begins at the first no, right? So here's four things that I look at. And Vince, I hear you loud and clear about how competitive the marketplace is, and how challenging it is. Pandemic, no pandemic. I got to tell you, generally, there's a lot of laziness in the world, and I
Big time, big time.
that if you are aggressive and you are relentless and you can get to the right people, you will have a lot of success. And as tight as the job market is, I do think those who really want it can stand out, and probably stand out easier today than even many a couple of years ago. So here's what I look at, and here's what I would do if I had to rewind everything. Number one, start building your network now. Okay. We all have access to LinkedIn. I'm on it all the time. I use it constantly. The conferences, and this is terrific, Vince. What you've put together here. There are a lot of virtual conferences right now that that everyone ought to be listening to. And when your friends are going out and they're going boating or they're going to go and play golf or whatever, you know what? Go and listen to the virtual conference, and then follow up. For those presenting, no matter what level you are, people love feedback. They just do. It's part of human nature. So if there's someone presenting, whether it's the commissioner of a league, a president of a company, or an expert in a field, you know what? There's access usually. If you listen to one of these conferences, just send that person a note. Start a dialogue. Start a relationship with those with those individuals, and network as much as you can. Two, find a mentor. And you don't need 3, 4, 5, 6 mentors. You really need 1 or 2 that have what I call pull power, right? Mentors that want to give back, they want to help, and invest in that relationship. How can you help that individual achieve their goals? Because if you've got a mentor in the sunset years of their career, a lot of those mentors want to give back, and they find self-gratification for that. So I go after a mentor, network as much as you can, and also volunteer. There are many successful people are volunteering, and find out whether I'll just name some of the big ones. Obviously United Way. I'm tied in with the National Boys and Girls Clubs of America, based out of
right.
And just get yourself involved there. Those 3 areas really help you. And then the last one I would say is just, and this sounds simple, and everyone's heard of guilt by association, but it works the other way. It's success by association. When you're going through school, when you're going through even your summer jobs, you can identify who's going to be successful and who's not. Now is the time where people start separating if they want to get serious about their careers and they want to be successful, because you're going to blink and those folks 20 years from now, 15 years from now are going to be running companies. And Vince, I can call you any day of any time of the day, the night. I know you're going to pick up the phone. Yep. You're there for me. I'm there for you. And it started with a professional relationship that turned out to be a great friendship. But at the end of the day, it all started with us knowing that there's 2 successful people that just want it bad. And, I've got a great network now, and all those people over the last 10, 15 years are now running companies, and it's fabulous. So those are the 4 things that, that I would encourage anybody going through school right now or just getting out to pursue.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because you and I, over our course of our friendship, we've never taken our relationship for granted. We've always nurtured it. We may not hear from one another for 3 or 4 months because we're busy or family or whatever, but we've always we talk about nurturing these relationships. You hit on the mentors, and we hit guys like you and I. We've been very, very blessed. We were those little boys driving to Orlando or stuffing envelopes and driving Dick Vitale to the airport. We're still those guys, right? And so you hit on that, and again, like I said, you're very prominent on LinkedIn. I'm a part of my book covers. I'm such a massive advocate for LinkedIn. In the old days, we had to go to the library and get an encyclopedia or yellow page or a resource guide, and now it's in the palm of their hand. So there's no excuse. But let's talk about LinkedIn, or somebody's able to track you down through that. What gets David McKillips' attention to respond back to the thousands of requests that you get back? What makes that student in that 5th percentile of a response you may grant?
Somebody does their homework. So,
bingo.
I'll tell you what. I'll go on the opposite side. And I hate to be negative about it, because I get so many messages. I mean, literally every day I get so many messages. There's no doubt this is very public. I'm running a company that is filed Chapter 11 right now. We're trying to work our way through the pandemic. We're having our troubles, but we're pivoting through it. And we're going to be successful when we get out of this. But I'll tell you, we're having a tough time. Mm-hmm. And if someone doesn't know that, then shame on them for you're not even just do a quick search.
By the way, that's 101.
101. But no, but I would say 99% of the people don't do it. And there's a lot of press about our company. There's a lot of press about an individual, either myself or another executive out there. You know what? Just reference it. Hey, I saw this in the news, and just get to the point, right? Any executive is going to read your first sentence. They're not going to. Don't write 4 paragraphs of all. Just get to the point. Just be very professional about it, and you'll get noticed. Hi, David. I just read this in one of your articles. I thought it was interesting. I'd love to talk to you about X. Great, got it. I'll give you any time that you want. And then the other thing is, and this is a pre-COVID situation. What I would say, Vince, you'll laugh, when I was working at DC Comics, my first sales job, I made it a point that I was going to try to talk to a president of a company every single day. That was my goal.
Right.
And you call 50 of them, and if one answers, that'd be amazing. But
what business are we in? We're in the rejection business.
Of course. But you know what? You latch on to one. You talk to them. You understand.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? Don't bother. And I don't mean to be so direct, but you know what? Don't call someone between 9 and 5. And that is typically the hours. But you know what? If you want to reach me, send me a note at about 7:30 in the morning. Most successful people are up.
Yep.
And I'll write you right back, or even in the evening. But you know what? 3:00 in the afternoon. Hi, what are you doing? Well, I'm in the middle of my day, so
I'm getting bombed by bankers and lawyers in the press. Well, but you hit on something too, and it's one of my huge pet peeves, is that there's so many ways to find me. There's so many ways to find you. And I'll be damned if I won't get some generic that say, hey, I'm Joe Smith, attached to my resume. I need to make X amount of dollars. And I immediately flush them, as opposed to saying, hey, Mr. Thompson, know your business of sports has been upside down. War Eagle, when this thing passes, I want to reach out to you for some advice. Hey, Mr. McKillips, I know your world is rocked with Chapter 11 and COVID and pizzas and birthday parties, but I want you to know I'm saying a prayer for you. Go Dogs, and we'll circle back when this thing passes. And you're going to move them to the top of the list.
You bet. And it's that easy. It is that easy.
It really is.
You know what? I scratch my head with people who are challenged sometimes. I look at it, and, but you know what? I had to figure it out myself. It took some time. So. And
then they wonder why that they don't get the responses, and it's mind-boggling. But I think you just shared some great wisdom, and I know we got to wrap, because you and I could sit here all day and do this. And by the way, we're going to do it again when the COVID passes, because this is going to be a year-round program. I'm probably going to have you teach one of our video masterclass series on a lot of things, but. As we close, you spend a lot of time in the car, a lot of windshield time, a lot of airplanes. What are some go-to resources, books, podcasts, publications that you would recommend to our students as they continue to begin their climb?
Well, let me say this. There's a book called "Good is the Enemy of Great," and I actually use that phrase all the time, because so many times people say, "Oh, that's good," right? And you feel okay about that, right? But how great do you feel when it's spectacular, right? And I think we stop at good so often in many things that we do. So don't let that be the enemy of great. Always push yourself. So there's a great book out there. That's one I like to read.
I love that. Good is the enemy of great.
Yeah, it is terrific. And the other thing I'm going to say is that. I am an advocate, and we talked about relentless. Boy, I will read everything now. Yep. And what frustrates me is my lack of knowledge, quite frankly, and what I thought, because I'll kind of close as we open. I was heading down a path, right? I was a marketing entertainment person, and you really kind of stick to your guns. That's what you need to do, and you let the finance guys do their thing. You let the legal gals do their thing. And you know what I found in this role? Boy, I'll tell you what, I want to know everything. And, right. You become, especially when you travel internationally and you learn beliefs and customs and you learn respect for other people. You just want to know everything. And you become a more interesting person as well. So what I would say is, even if it's not in your direct sight line of what you think you ought to want to do in your career, learn it.
Comfort zone.
And I had to chase my tail to learn all this finance because I didn't take a finance course going through school, So, but now, now I learned it, and I'm fascinated with the legal side of the business as well. So, just learn everything you can, get outside your comfort zone, and just enjoy everything you're doing, because the path changes. Go down the path wherever it leads you, and if you're relentless, you'll find success.
Well, this is so great. Like I said, we're going to have you back on the podcast and on the masterclass video series we're going to develop and all that, because you've just been amazing. But obviously, in the spirit of time, you're busy. But David McKillips, one of my dearest friends, one of the dearest people, one of the dearest people professionally I respect on the planet, CEO of Chuck E. Cheese, University of Georgia, SeaWorld, DC Comics, Six Flags, Batman, Robin. I mean, all of them bundled up into one. We certainly appreciate your time and words of wisdom and advice, and I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of our great students on Melt University, so virtual Melt University. So we thank you so much, David.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.